It is a Tuesday night. What is going on, guys? It is January 17, 2023. I am the Solomonster, and welcome to yet another live watch along, our first for the new year. And we're going to do it the only way that makes sense because we are celebrating 30 years. 30 years of Monday Night Raw this month. We were actually going to do this watch along last Wednesday until all hell broke loose with all the McMahon family drama. It seems to be something new every week. I was half expecting something to break today. I thought I was going to have to push this back by another week. But thankfully, it's been a relatively quiet day. And so we're doing it today instead. Now, next Monday, of course, WWE is doing Raw 30 in Philadelphia. They're going to be bringing us their own little anniversary episode, so I got them beat. I figure we'll beat them to the punch here. And we'll watch the very first episode of Monday Night Raw from January 11th, 1993. Aired on the USA Network live from the Manhattan Center in New York City, a venue that I am very much familiar with. So we're going to get going here in just a few minutes. Let a few more people filter on in. If you have not joined us before for one of these watch-alongs, we've done a whole bunch of them last year. Usually I give you guys a time code on Peacock, let you make your way over there, start a match from a particular point. This is a little bit different because there's no time code needed. We're going to watch the entire first episode. And so you guys can go right now, if you don't already have it queued up, you can go to Peacock or WWE Network, I guess depending on where you are in the world. And on Peacock, they have it ranked by season. So all you have to do is find Monday Night Raw, Season 1, Episode 1, January 11, 1993. And when I give you guys the cue, here in a little bit, I'll tell you to hit the play button so we can all watch in sync. And obviously, I can't play any of the images or the audio on screen, but we'll watch along, we'll chat. I got some fun facts for you. Super chats are open, so feel free to drop any super chats, any questions you may have that you might want me to answer. Do hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you are new here. You will notice that the live chat, I see a lot of familiar faces in the live chat, which is great to see. It is members only tonight. So everybody can watch along with us, but typically the live chat is members only. You can always become a channel member. You can gift memberships to other people. So I see all my members in the chat tonight. It's good to see everybody. So I thought, before we really get too deep into things here and get going on this, we talked just briefly about WWE in 1993. Business was not great for WWF at the time. In 1992, which is a year that I love, 93, it wasn't much better. It was the changing of the guard, all of the top names that you knew and used to watch as a kid, the Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, the Ultimate Warrior. A lot of these guys either disappeared or looked very, very different. Because of the crackdown on steroids, Vince McMahon had the federal government breathing down his neck. And so you saw a lot of physiques change. A lot of guys left the company. And it just, business was just not good. And they were transitioning into an era of better workers and smaller workers. Bret Hart at the time was the WWF champion. He had just become champion a few months before this for the first time. Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental Champion. He had beaten the British Bulldog. Bulldog then got fired, as did Warrior around the same time. And Money Incorporated, Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase and IRS were the WWF Tag Team Champions. That was your champions roll call at the time for the company in 1993. But for those who don't know, as far as Monday Night Raw is concerned, how did the show come about? What was the concept? What did WWF have on at the time? They had a show on Monday nights on USA Network. It was 2 hours every Monday night called Primetime Wrestling. Dating back to, I believe, 1986 is when the show debuted. And originally, I believe the hosts were Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body Ventura. Eventually, it became Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, who would host the show from a studio. They would throw it to pre-recorded clips from matches all over the country. So they would film matches from live events that were not televised and air those matches on primetime. They would take matches that were taped on the syndicated shows, and they would dip back and forth, basically, from Gorilla and Bobby in studio to the matches. And I got to tell you, I didn't have cable at the time, so when my grandparents could tape it for me, I would watch prime time. I didn't care about the matches so much. I was more entertained by the banter between Gorilla and Bobby. And they would have a lot of remotes where they would go on location. They would do funny skits together. That was the Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan show. That's what primetime wrestling was. And for whatever reason, they decided to shake up the format. A couple of times after that, it became a studio show with Vince McMahon at the head of the table. And he would have two guests to his left and two guests to his right. And Bobby was still on there, but Gorilla was not. And then it became a different type of show with a live audience. It went through a whole bunch of different changes for reasons that are still not entirely clear to me, because the show was never the same when they changed away from the Gorilla Monsoon Bobby Heenan format. When the ratings started to really bottom out, they decided to go in a different direction. Vince McMahon came up with the idea, or somebody in his orbit talked to him and convinced him. I don't know exactly where the genesis or the germ of this idea came from. But the idea was, we're going to junk this format, and we're going to have a completely different show, since we already have the slot on USA on Monday nights. We're going to go live. We're going to go live for a fresh show with matches. We're going to call it Monday Night Raw, and we're going to be live in New York City from the Manhattan Center. And that was really the genesis of it. Now, the Manhattan Center, for those who don't know, a little Manhattan Center fun fact here. The Manhattan Center was originally called the Manhattan Opera House, built all the way back in 1906. And even still, it is not the oldest building in New York City, but it's pretty old. Built in 1906 by Oscar Hammerstein the First. And it wasn't until 1939 that the building was changed to the Manhattan Center. It became a multi-purpose center for all different types of events and not just, opera performances. As far as my memories of the Manhattan Center, I will tell you, one of my regrets, besides not being at the Manhattan Center and the Hammerstein Ballroom for the very first ECW One Night Stand, which I've talked about before. I still don't know why I didn't go to that show. But I did not go to any of those early Monday Night Raws. Even though I lived in New York my whole life, I did not go to the Manhattan Center for any of those shows. And I didn't have cable at the time. So I would have my grandparents tape the shows for me, especially if there was a big match or something big was going to happen. And then I would watch it that way. But I didn't get cable until 1995. So I was still relying mostly on the syndicated shows. And you could see how Raw became more influential over time, because the big shows really were Superstars and Wrestling Challenge, which would air in syndicated markets. Here in New York, it was on our local Fox channel. Over time, Raw started to become the bigger show. And the syndicated shows didn't have as many angles, like major angles anymore. And more, they were showing highlights of all the good stuff that happened on Monday Night Raw. So it was sort of this slow evolution where Raw became the most important show. More so than the syndicated shows, which eventually went away. Challenge went away. Superstars, they hung on to Superstars into the Attitude Era. But by that point, it was a magazine show. It really wasn't any kind of, substantial show anymore at that point. But I did not make it to the Manhattan Center for the first time until Ring of Honor in 2006. So the very first wrestling show I ever saw in that building was ROH. And I saw a whole bunch of Ring of Honor shows in that building, both in the Grand Ballroom upstairs on the 7th floor, I believe, and the Hammerstein Ballroom. So for those who don't know, inside the Manhattan Center, when you first walk in on that first level, is the Hammerstein Ballroom. And that is the bigger of the rooms that they have there. The Grand Ballroom is where this episode and the early days of Monday Night Raw were filmed. And that was about 7 flights up. So some of the Ring of Honor shows were up in the Grand Ballroom. Eventually, they graduated downstairs to the Hammerstein Ballroom. TNA ran a bunch of their tapings many years ago that I did attend. Like when they first went to Destination America, they ran upstairs in the Grand Ballroom. So there's a lot of wrestling history in that room, and that's the extent to which I can say that I was ever there. I was not there for any of the WWE shows. One of the things that you're going to hear when we start playing this here in 2 minutes here is on the announce team. You're going to hear a voice that you may not be familiar with, and that would be the voice of Rob Bartlett, who is a comedian, and I use that term loosely. I'll take your word for it that he's a funny guy. But he was a comedian who made his bones on the Don Imus show, Imus in the Morning, the radio show. He was so terrible. He was so out of his league doing this show and clearly didn't know about the product, had no product knowledge, didn't seem to have a lot of product interest. He was there to crack jokes, but he was cracking jokes at the expense of the talent. He was so good at his job that they gave him the boot by April. So this is January. By April, like mid-April, he was gone. And they shuffled the announce team up. But I want to read you a little piece from Meltzer in The Observer after the first episode aired. This is back in January of 93. This is what Meltzer wrote about Rob Bartlett. He said, "The main problem was Rob Bartlett. Bartlett's comedy is not funny, but that wasn't the problem. The problem is he was totally unprepared. I'm not sure that making jokes about the promotion's killer heel needing a bra and having a wedgie is going to help get him over as an awesome monster. Even under good business conditions, if it was Buddy Rose-like comedy, that would be one thing, but not Yokozuna, who is someone who is figured in as a main event heel for the next year or so." And that struck me because I realized the same thing. As he was talking about Yoko in the opening match, like, this is a guy who, a few months after this, is going to win the WWF title. And Bartlett's on commentary basically just mocking him. And I never saw the appeal in him. I don't know exactly what the thought process was. I guess, toilet humor. We know Vince loves his toilet humor. I guess maybe that was the idea behind bringing in somebody like him. But as you'll hear, he was woefully unprepared to be in that position. So it's a short show, unlike today where the show feels like it's 15 hours long every week. It's only an hour episode, and we're only going to be watching about 46 minutes, I believe, without the commercials. Yokozuna and Koko Beware is going to be the first match, very first match in the history of Monday Night Raw. We got the Steiner brothers taking on the Executioners, the team of Dwayne Gill, Old Gilberg, and Barry Hardy. No relation. Shawn Michaels defends the Intercontinental title on this episode against Max Moon, who we'll be talking about. And the Undertaker in the main event takes on Damien Demento. There was a dark match at the Manhattan Center that night that did not air. It was Crush beating Bam Bam Bigelow by DQ when Doink the Clown interfered in the match. 9 Hall of Famers on this show, if you include the appearances by Bobby Heenan trying to get in the building and Razor Ramon, who has a promo on this show. So with all that out of the way, again, it is season 1, episode 1 on Peacock. We're going to start right from the beginning of the episode, so there's no time code. The way it works is I'm just going to count down from 3, 2, 1. I'm going to say play, and at that point, I think it's self-explanatory. You guys know what to do. So, without any further ado, let's do the countdown. We go from 3, 2, 1. Push play now. We begin the first episode of Monday Night Raw. You've got Sean Mooney, who was on the streets of NYC outside the building. I always like Sean Mooney. There's the brain. MH, the dark match would have been, I believe, at the very end of the night is when they did the Crush match. So this was a show-long storyline. Bobby Heenan wanted to be part of the first Raw, and he was not allowed in the building. Jammed to the rafters. Sold out. Can't get in. Here we go. I'm not skipping this intro. It says skip intro. I'm not skipping this intro. This is probably my, I would say this is my second favorite Raw intro of all time. Behind the Attitude Era one. The one from 98 it's tough to beat. So there it is. The first voice you hear live in the building is Vince McMahon. Back when he still had his marbles about him creatively. There he is at ringside with the Macho Man Randy Savage and Rob Bartlett. Sure, if you're a wrestling fan watching this was like, who? Rob who? Rob Bartlett. Yokozuna. Okay, so there you go. This guy has just said his first 10 words. He can't even get the guy's name right. Yokozuna. Got the annoying sirens in the background. So here we go. We got Koko B. Ware getting the first entrance, a WWE Hall of Famer. 2 Hall of Famers in this match. The baggiest outfit you will ever see. Now, this is during this period, he's using Owen Hart's music because he and Owen were teaming up at the time. They were a team called High Energy. And I believe, I'm not sure if it was around this time or if it was late 92. I think it was around this time in early 93. I just saw something actually about this on Twitter about a couple of hours ago. One of the Twitter accounts posted a clip from a 93 match between Owen Hart when he was the Rocket Owen Hart against Bam Bam Bigelow. I think it was on Superstars. And they had a great match. And TJ Wilson, Tyson Kidd chimed in. And he would know, obviously, he's very close to the Hart family. And he said, which I didn't realize, that Owen tore his ACL in that match with Bam Bam. You would never know it because they kept going. They wrestled a great match. Bam Bam beat him with the diving headbutt. But evidently, Owen tore his ACL. And TJ said that Owen never had it fixed. I think he had a little bit of time off, but he never had it operated on. He never had it fixed. So he wrestled the rest of his career with no ACL, basically, or a damaged ACL in his knee. So think of all the great matches that Owen went on to have, the matches with his brother. He did that with an ACL injury, or again, no ACL. He never had it fixed. I didn't realize that. So Koko B. Ware gets fed to the Lions here against Yokozuna, or as he says, Yokozuna. The original head of the table. The head of the dinner table. Look at this guy. 505 pounds. And think of it, you see him here. He looks slender compared to how he was just a few years later at the end of his run. As big as he is here, when he hit his peak, when he was at his most morbidly obese, legit, Yoko was about, I think, almost 300 pounds. Probably 250 to 280 heavier than he is here. That's unbelievable. The battle of Owen's partners. Good. That's a good point. That's right. Yokozuna, also a former tag team partner later on of Owen Hart. So here we go. The very first match in Raw history. And good to see Loose Cannon Lopez joining us. Yes, Noah Mark was at this show. In fact, during some of the matches, you might not be able to recognize him, but you could see him in the background. They were chasing around the clown. They were chasing around Doink the Clown at one point. He and Brian Blade. So, on Raw last night, we saw the in-ring debut of Bronson Reed taking on Akira Tozawa. That's kind of what this match is like. Bronson Reed, it was just a squash for him. He squashed the hell out of Tozawa. And that's basically what this is here. Koko bouncing off Yokozuna. Couldn't even move the man. Bounced off him like a ball. There's Mike Chioda with his mullet. His magnificent mullet. Shawn Michaels had a mullet back then. It was the mullet era. Coco's not having a lot of luck here. Shout out to Austin, by the way. Austin Runge, who just became a channel member, so he can chat with everybody. Say hello to Austin. Austin, thank you. Austin, now you have access to all of the extra emojis. Members only emojis in the chat. Oh. He's throwing a couple of drop kicks trying to get him down. Oh, did not work. Yoko sidesteps him and he goes right into the ropes. Here comes the big leg. This always looked great when he would do it. A simple leg drop from Yokozuna looked like it could be a finishing move. And Bret Hart used to say, because he wrestled Yoko a lot, he used to say Yoko would drop that leg on his face, wouldn't even leave an imprint on it. It was like a feather touching it. They had about 1,000 people in the building. It was a crowd of 600 paid, so they weren't all. Not everybody there bought a ticket, but it was a packed house that night. So here we go. He's about to finish off whole Coco. He's going to squash the bird here. Here comes the bonsai. I'm sure Rob Bartlett will have a wonderful comment about this. I will be reading your super chats here in a second, so I am not neglecting you. Sam, welcome, man. Sam, if you're in this chat, you're a channel member because it's members only. So yes, you're still a member. So a win for Yokozuna here to open up the very first episode of Raw. And again, they were priming Yokozuna. He would win the Royal Rumble later that month. He would go on to win the championship at WrestleMania and then lost it 2 minutes later. But that's possibly for another watch along. So here we get a commercial for the Royal Rumble. Always my favorite time of year. Very, very underwhelming build to very underwhelming build for the Rumble this year. So we're back to ringside here. That's right, they had the Raw girls. So Bobby Heenan here with a promo on Narcissus. We had Lex Luger. He was about to make his debut in a few weeks at the Royal Rumble. So guys, look, I'm going to ask you to do something here. If you're watching along with me, God damn it. Pause. I want you to pause the watch along, all right? We're going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Hit pause. So pause in the middle of the Bobby Heenan promo here. Because we have some breaking news, unfortunately. I am just seeing this now. Tony Khan just tweeted, literally not even 5 minutes ago here. This is what Tony Khan has to say. Sadly, Jamin Pugh has passed away, known to fans as Jay Briscoe. he was a star in Ring of Honor for over 20 years, from the first show until today. Jay and his brother Mark dominated Ring of Honor, reigning as champions to this day. And we will do whatever we can to support his family. Rest in peace, Jamin. Wow. You know, when I saw this, I was checking because if you hear stuff like that, and I thought it was a hoax, but I'm literally looking at this right now on Tony Khan's Twitter, and I'm still kind of hoping it's a hoax, but it does not look that way at all. 38 years old, Jay Briscoe has passed away. I don't even know what to say. Wow. We don't know the circumstances behind. I'm literally just seeing it now. I don't see any explanation, cause of death, nothing like that. Obviously, condolences to his family, his brother, his kids, colleagues. Like a lot of you, I have seen Jay Briscoe's work over a period of many, many years. I was literally just sitting here 5 minutes ago telling you that I went to Ring of Honor shows at the Manhattan Center. We're talking here about a show that emanated in a building. I watched the Briscoes so many times in that building have great matches and make a name for themselves. And we know the reasons why they never went to WWE, and Warner Brothers Discovery didn't want them on AEW television because of a bunch of tweets that Jay had put up over a decade ago that he had apologized for. But they were, in many ways, the heart and soul of Ring of Honor. They were there for 20 years. They just went into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame. They just started their Hall of Fame class about a year ago, almost a year ago now. And they were among the first inductees into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame, rightfully so. We just saw them have an incredible series of matches with FTR that, on a lot of people's list was their match of the year or their series of matches in 2022. I couldn't choose between them. So when I did my match of the year countdown for 2022, the Briscoes and FTR were at the very top of that list. So even though they had been doing it for 20 years, they were still in their prime. They were still going out there. They were still putting out kick-ass matches. I had the great pleasure, as somebody who does commentary for House of Glory, they were our tag team champions for the majority of 2022. And it was only on the last show that we had in December that the Briscoes lost their tag team titles to one of our sort of homegrown teams in main event. And it was an incredible match. And really, that was the story of last year. Every single Briscoes match that I saw, no matter who it was against, no matter how big or small the show was, they went out there and they put on a show, and they usually put on the best match on that show. And I had the chance to meet Jay Briscoe and his brother for the first time. And, again, it was sort of in passing when I would see them, and I would, talk to them briefly. And sometimes it was just, hello, how are you, and a handshake. So, I don't sit here and say that I knew them as well as other people did, but it's just very jarring because he was younger than me. And so I don't know. Again, we don't know the circumstances behind this. If people are kind of tuning in now here on the stream, and I know there's a lot of people who are filtering in in right now. We are just getting the news, if you are late to the stream here, that Jay Briscoe, 38 years old, has passed away. We don't know the circumstances, but Tony Khan is the one who put the news out. And I'll just read this tweet here one more time. Tony Khan tweeted just a little while ago, sadly, Jay Briscoe has passed away. He was a star in Ring of Honor for over 20 years, from the first show until today. Jay and his brother Mark dominated ROH, reigning as champions to this day. And we will do whatever we can to support his family. And rest in peace, Jamin. It's shocking. I don't know. I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. This is just fucking terrible. I'm at a loss for words right now. So Quizzical One in the chat is saying that it was a car accident. Let me see here if I could just get any more information on this. I hate flying blind like this. But this is breaking as we speak here. So just give me a moment, guys. This was obviously unexpected. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else right now. I'm sure news is going to continue to filter in here. Man, I just yeah, there'll be a time and a place as far as a discussion of where they rank all time as far as tag teams go. But how do you not have them in the conversation? Jay and Mark Briscoe. I mean, you look back on their body of work, and I mean, I would put their body of work up against in the ring against anybody else. And they were my sense from what I knew of them and what I've heard about them is what we saw of them in those promos and in the ring and on TV, very much an extension of who they were. They were a couple of characters. They were a couple of country boys and built up a following all over the country in multiple promotions. Obviously, Ring of Honor is the place they're going to be most associated with, but it's just amazing to me that I'm sitting here talking about this coming off just a few weeks ago, talking about the dog collar match that they had with FTR, and it's just wow. So let me take a look here. I think Meltzer supposedly has something about this on his Twitter. So according to Meltzer, he says 2 people in a car died in an accident at 5:30 p.m. in Laurel, Maryland. So evidently he was one of the 2 in the car. I don't know who the other person was. I don't know if anybody else was injured or killed in this accident. I don't know the circumstances around the accident. We are getting this information here in real time. I have to assume that his I don't know what the status of his brother is. Obviously, they're just saying Jay Briscoe. I don't know if his brother was involved in the accident in any way. I did see the tweet from Cash Wheeler who said that he's in tears. I mean, obviously, I mean this. I mean, how must they feel? Having just worked with them so recently, and it's just one of those things that you just don't. You never want to hear. It's the worst. It's the worst kind of news that you can possibly get. But his career. Jay Briscoe also had a singles run. So you're going to hear everybody is going to be rightfully, when you talk about the Briscoes, you talk about both of them together. You talk about their career as a tag team. But Jay Briscoe had a successful singles run as well. Former Ring of Honor world champion, involved in many classic matches, on his own. He was a very accomplished performer. And so that also has to be taken into consideration when you talk about his body of work. But I don't know, I'm just finding it hard to talk about his body of work when, multiple people apparently are dead right now. So, but every time, when I hear a story like this, and unfortunately there have been a lot of wrestler deaths, young wrestler deaths over the years for various reasons, but you hear about stuff like this, and I always think, just don't. You can't take life for granted. No matter how old you are, no matter how you feel, you look great, you feel great, right? Nothing like this can ever happen to me or someone I know or someone I'm watching on TV. And then you just get punched in the gut and life has other plans, and it's just one of those things where you can't take life for granted, because unfortunately shit like this happens, and it's it just sucks. Laurel, Delaware. Okay, correction. Laurel, Delaware. It's not Maryland. Well, Delaware is where they live, I believe. Yeah, and he had just tweeted 6 hours ago. I saw the picture. He tweeted a picture 6 hours ago with him and his brother. He had bought a new hat, and he was showing off his new hat. That was 6 hours ago. Now he's gone. It's unbelievable. Yeah, obviously, if you know, who knew, right? But had I known, I would have opened the chat up to everybody. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to chime in with their thoughts on this. Right now, the chat is members only because this stream started as a watch along. It was meant to be something fun. I thought, hey, we'll push it back by a week because of the news of last week, and it seemed like it was going to be a quiet night, and then it wasn't. And I don't know. I mean, I will leave it up to you guys if you want to, continue on with this. We can continue on with the watch along, and as more news comes in about this, and I'm sure there'll be some more details that come in, we can kind of break, or at the end we can get back to Jay. I will leave it up to you guys. Man. I'm just looking to see what else I can find here. Well, why don't we do this? Let me catch up with your message, because I know you guys are now sending in super chats about it. That's how I first saw what was going on. Let me just go back and catch up on some of these super chats here. Fire Panda, thank you. I will try to get to your question after. Drew Johnson, thank you very much. I know you're a big Shawn Michaels fan. I know. He's on the show. I know. God of Seduction, thank you. Thank you for the $3. Dr. Dakota Scorpio says he doesn't have Peacock. He's just here for Solomonster. I appreciate that. I wish it were under better circumstances. Derek Fleming Jr. with the $4.99 wants to know any advice on leaving your job, feeling undervalued. Got passed up for a promotion again. I do all the work of the managers and I get paid like I don't. My advice to you is very simple. Don't let people take advantage of you. If you feel like you're being taken advantage of, first thing I would do is try to have a conversation with your boss. Try to have a conversation with whoever it is that you need to talk to. And if you feel like your voice is not being heard and you're not being valued, then you need to leave. And you need to go find somebody else who will be able to appreciate you for what you bring to the table. That is my advice to you. Life is too short to deal with that kind of bullshit. Cody Moore, thank you, Cody. Says a rare Tuesday stream. My night just got better. Well, it was. Also, going on my first flight tomorrow. Saved the 3-hour podcast for it. Thank you. Well, I don't think you're going to have an issue killing time with that show. That was one of the longer shows that I've done in a while. Ed Swoggle, any chance for a members only Be the Booker tonight? We are not going to do Be the Booker tonight. I'm not really in a Be the Booker mood. Donovan D. Thank you for the $9.99, Donovan. Says, I don't know if it was because I was 12, but 1997 was the greatest year in Raw history. '97. I don't think you're wrong about that. I think '97 was a very important year. Maybe one of the most important years for that company was 1997. You could feel the shift, the transition from one era to another. '97 is a very important year. Derek, you're actually the one I noticed your message first about the Jay Briscoe stuff. So thank you, Derek. And Sam says F 2023. It feels like 2020 part 3. Yeah, we are not off to a great start this year. Let's check and see here if there's any other news. Yeah, nothing right now. You know, that was my first thought when I saw that Tony Khan tweet. Never in my life have I wanted Tony Khan to be hacked on Twitter more than I did tonight. But it is legit. Again, for people who are coming in now, or maybe looking for a live stream about the news, this started out as a very different type of stream, and obviously now we have the breaking news that Jay Briscoe has passed away at the age of 38 in what appears to have been a car accident. Tony Khan was the one who first broke the news. We don't have any other details at this point about what happened. That will come in the hours ahead. This literally, he just posted that tweet at 8:25 p.m. And it is 8:47 as I am speaking to you right now. So we don't have all the information yet. I hope his brother is okay. Obviously, my sympathies are with Mark Briscoe and their entire family. It's just awful. I don't know what else to say about that other than it is tragic. Mike M, thank you for becoming a channel member, Mike. It's good to have you. I wish it were under different circumstances. The Briscoes, when you look back on their career, the Briscoes are absolutely one of the best to ever do it. His body of work is legendary. His body of work will speak for itself. Even though he never had a big run in WWE, the team never had a big run in WWE. I'm sure that had they gone there, booking wise, who knows? But I'm sure they would have found success there as well. There were not and are not too many people like the Briscoes today in wrestling. In an era 30 years ago where maybe it was more populated by characters and gimmicks, they felt like a gimmick, but they weren't. With the Briscoes, what you saw was what you got. Very entertaining, very unique in their own way. I think you kind of drop them in any era, even the eras of 30, 40 years ago. I think they would have fit like a glove. I think they would have gotten over wherever they went. And their work in the ring, all the classic matches they've been a part of over the years, all the different titles they've won. When I was getting ready to put some notes together for their match at the Hog Show in December, obviously I had written down stuff about their matches with FTR and what an incredible year of matches those two teams had had. But they won gold in multiple places. They won the Crockett Cup in the NWA last year. I mean, as long as they had been around for, they were still kicking ass and taking names, and they were still finding success in the wrestling business, and Ring of Honor Hall of Fame, and all of the other accomplishments, and um, you know, 38 years old but still in his prime. It's just awful. And God of Seduction says 1 week from his birthday. Is that true? Jay's birthday is next week, January 25th. Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah. And I'm only a couple of years older than him. So again, when I hear news like that, it's jarring to me. Um, Scott, what's going on, man? Scott Woodford met the Briscoes on the first cruise, that the Jericho cruise. That's right. That's right. Well, I met Scott on the Jericho cruise. I think the second one they did. But yeah, I believe they were on that first one. Yeah, the promos from the farm. I mean, just they were characters, man. I mean, they were real life characters, and you would watch them, and even when they were heel, how can you hate on the Briscoes when you were watching them and you were listening to the promos and watching them work? It was hard to root against those guys. They were always very entertaining. I don't know how many kids he has. I know he has kids. I don't know how many. If it's two or three, I'm not sure. But that's just. I believe they're younger, and it's just awful. And again, my condolences to the family and friends. And what do you say in a situation like this? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you say in a situation like this. So again, I throw it to you guys. We can continue here with the watch along. We were in the middle of this. We were just getting going here. Yeah, there's probably about half an hour left in this. We can finish this and then get back to your messages. Again, I'm going to defer to you guys on this because I can go either way. I just don't have a lot in the way of details right now beyond what I've already talked about. I'm looking. I'm not finding too much more right now, so it's just tough. It's terrible. Flamethrower Fluff Salisbury. This is under different conditions, but it is as sad as when Brody Lee passed away. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad no matter what. Josiah says R.I.P.J. And Ghostros, what about a Jay Briscoe watch along? Old matches of his from '04 to '07 are free on YouTube. That could be an idea. I don't want to start, I don't want to start trying to search for links and stuff. But that could be an idea. That could be an idea. I'm just hoping we don't, find out that he got hit by like a drunk driver or something like that. I feel like we hear stories like that, and it makes me so angry. So I'm hoping it's not, anything like that where we come to find out some person, plowed into his car. I mean, we don't know. We don't know the circumstances around it. That's why I'm kind of frustrated right now because I wish we knew more. Hey Heber Hero just became a channel member. Heber, thank you. All right, so we're gonna go on here. We're gonna pick up with this, and then we will get back to the Jay Briscoe stuff. It puts obviously a damper on things for obvious reasons, but let's pick up with this, and then we'll circle back to the news here. I paused this in the middle of the Bobby Heenan promo about Lex Luger, so I'm gonna same thing. 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna say hit play, and then you guys can do the same. So 3, 2, 1, play now. Again, for the people who are obviously we have more people who are coming in here, probably just hearing the Jay Briscoe news. We were in the middle of a watch along for the first episode of Raw from '93. We're picking up with it now on Peacock. If you're coming in late here, we are coming up on 11 minutes and 10 seconds into the episode if you want to join us here. And once I find out a little bit more about the Jay Briscoe stuff, we will get back to that in a second. All right, so we're back live here in the arena now. Steiner Brothers are coming out for another, what I'm sure will be a squash, against the Executioners, who were played here by Dwayne Gilberg. and Barry Hardy. Steiners were still relatively new. They had just come into the company recently. There you see Doink in the crowd in the background. I believe that's where our old friend Noah Mark and Brian Blade were, in that section over there. You see Doink running around in the background. Well, you see the clown being harassed in the background. I'm almost positive Noah is the one who's harassing him back there. I feel like this is when physically Scott Steiner was at his peak here during this. Oh, there's Brian Blade. There he is. There he is. There's Brian Blade, my old buddy. You remember the old WrestleMania roundtables? I've had Noah and Brian on my show many times before. They were in the building that night for the show. And Noah's in the chat right now. There's DJ Noah 80 is in the chat and giving you the play-by-play on how they harassed the clown. Rick Steiner's in the ring now with Executioner number, take your pick, I guess number 2. Got Joey Morella in the ring, the son of Gorilla Monsoon, who also passed away very young, even younger than Jay Briscoe. Passed away, I want to say he was 34 the following year when Morella passed away. There's that catch power slam by Rick Steiner. Now you know where Braun Breaker gets it from. But Scott Steiner here, I was saying before, this was Scott Steiner, I think, at like the physical peak for him. Now you would say that's crazy. He only got bigger. I don't mean bigger. I just mean if he would have stayed this size, I think he could have, easily he could have been a world champion one day, even at this size. But then he got way out of control with it. So here we go. Here, this is the finish. Here comes the top rope bulldog. That's it for the Executioners. So I believe we have the Intercontinental title match coming up after that. I'm not sure if it's the IC match or a promo, because I believe there's a Razor Ramon promo on this show in the ring with Vince McMahon. So that may be coming up next. Matthew, yeah, Gorilla Monsoon. Well, Gorilla Monsoon had at least one son, yes. Joey Morella was his son. He passed away in a one-car, eerily enough, a car accident on the New Jersey Turnpike after a marathon taping in July of 94. I think it was July 4th weekend. So here's one of the skits with Bobby Heenan. He dressed up as a woman to try to get into the building, claiming to be Rob Bartlett's aunt. It's the ugliest woman I've ever seen. Yeah, okay, so we got the Razor Ramon promo coming up next. But what I said before, when I said that Monsoon had at least one son, there have always been rumors that Victor Quinones, if you don't know that name, you can look him up, that he may have been Gorilla's son. I don't know if that was ever confirmed, but the belief is that he was also Gorilla Monsoon's son. And I think he was promoting down in Mexico, I believe. So here's Scott Hall Another wrestling name we lost last year. In the ring with Vince McMahon to talk about his upcoming title match with Bret Hart at the Royal Rumble. The one time that he challenged for the WWF title in the main event, well, not the main event, I guess. It didn't go on last, but on a pay-per-view was the Rumble in 93, and he had a knee injury going into this match. So if you go back and watch the match that he and Bret had at the Rumble in 93, I believe he has either a sleeve or a brace, I think a sleeve on his knee. He was not 100% for that match. And they still had what I thought was actually a very good match. We talk about Ric Flair these days, Ric Flair drip. This is drip. Look at this guy. Look what this guy's wearing. This guy, he exuded cool when you would look at Razor. It's no wonder the fans just naturally got behind him. They turned him babyface, you know. Yeah, so this was an angle they're showing here where Razor, he attacked Owen. You know, not unlike what could happen on SmackDown this week with the contract signing. Somebody had the idea on the stream last night that maybe Kevin Owens gets handcuffed to the ropes, and maybe this is the night that they beat up Sami Zayn. It's possible, you never know. But to get to Bret, he decided to beat up his little brother. Hey, Rizzo, you have extended your membership streak to 21 months. I salute you. Thank you, Rizzo. So there's your Razor Ramon promo. Just, you know, there's Brian Blade again. Boy, he got more camera time than most of the wrestlers did on this show. Rizzo, yes, unfortunately it is true. I was just talking about Jay Briscoe at length before, and we'll get back to that here. We are resuming the watch along. At the end of this, we'll talk a little bit more before we get out of here about Jay Briscoe. But unfortunately, it is true. So now we get a Tatanka pre-tape promo. Tatanka went on Facebook today or yesterday to let everybody know that even though he was extended an invitation many weeks ago to Raw 30 next week, his kid, I think, has a wrestling match somewhere, amateur, and he's got his priorities straight. He's going to go watch his son wrestle, so he will not be on Raw next week. I know you're all devastated that we will not get to see Tatanka, but he will not be there. So here we go. This is for the Intercontinental Championship. There's Max Moon. And he is going to be challenging Shawn Michaels, a man that he is very familiar with because the two of them used to be tag team partners. This is Paul Diamond under the mask. They were a tag team back in Texas All-Star Wrestling many years earlier called American Breed. So these two very familiar with one another. So a little bit of info here on the Max Moon gimmick. Originally, it was played by Conan. Conan was intended for the gimmick, the costume. He was intended to be Max Moon. Although I believe at first when he debuted, they were calling him the Comet Kid, I believe was the name. The idea behind the character was that it was either a cyborg from the future or a cyborg from outer space. Take your pick. It was one or the other. But Conan left the company. He had 3 matches that aired on TV in '92, and he left the company. He had disagreements with Vince McMahon, and their relationship got very strained, so he left the company. So they went with Paul Diamond instead. Paul Diamond had been part of a tag team with Pat Tanaka called Bad Company prior to coming to the WWF. And he also was Kato of the Orient Express, ironically, with Tanaka. They were partners again as the Orient Express in WWE. Um, as far as the Max Moon character goes, he's getting a match with Shawn Michaels here. He had one pay-per-view appearance, which was a few weeks after this at the Royal Rumble. He was in the Rumble match for, I think, not even 2 minutes before he got eliminated. And he was out of the company by the end of February. So Max Moon did not last very long. I guess his planet needed him, I guess. And we never saw him again. I'll tell you what, though, as far as costumes go, as ridiculous as he kind of looks, I think it's actually kind of a cool costume. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like in Lucha Libre, like that costume would have fit right in. This is already more exciting than the first 2 matches we saw. Josiah, thank you for the super chat. I love you, brother. And the Macho Punk says, "R.I.P. Jay Briscoe." Indeed. Again, we're gonna get back to that here at the end of the watch along. I'm still waiting to see if there's any more information that comes out about what happened. But unfortunately, if you are just seeing it, the news is true. So they just went to commercial, and now they're coming back. Coming to us live from the Manhattan Center in New York City. This is for the Intercontinental title, back when the title looked like something that was actually worth fighting for. That was their slogan for the show that they all just recited. Uncooked, uncensored, and what was the last part of it? Uncool. So Michaels would go on to defend the IC title against Marty Jannetty. The reason that Sherry is not in his corner, they had already shot an angle that aired on the syndicated shows, where Jannetty came back to the company. He had been gone for the majority of 1992. He had been suspended. He had some legal problems. He went away for a while. He came back because originally they would have done the match with him and Shawn at WrestleMania the year before. WrestleMania 8 probably would have been Shawn Michaels against Marty Jannetty. And Doink is now in the aisleway. What is he doing? Rob Bartlett now doing a terrible Mike Tyson impression. This was evil Doink. This was the best version of Doink. Where he would just go around just terrorizing and bullying children. But Michaels instead, when Jannetty came back, they had their match at the Royal Rumble. I love Evil Doink. Evil Doink was great. That really is the worst Mike Tyson. I told you this guy is not funny. I don't understand what the appeal was in bringing him into this announce booth for the show. He's fucking terrible. I'm shocked he lasted as long as he did. Even the 4 months they gave him, or 3 months, whatever it was. God of Seduction with the $2 super chat. Thank you for keeping the stream on. It helps a bit. That's why I threw it to you guys. I said, whatever you guys want to do. You want to keep going, or do you want to end it? You guys want to keep going? I'm fine with that. It's not a long episode. Again, it's 46 minutes, easy watch. One of the things I used to like about NXT when it was on the network, it was an easy watch. It was an hour-long show that really was like 46, 48 minutes. And they went to 2 hours on USA with commercials, and it was really never the same. Not a terribly exciting match. Whenever you work a hold for that long, you're not having a very exciting match. Yeah, the old reverse chinlock. He's still doing the Tyson shtick, and Vince is doing that phony laugh. This is awful. This is terrible. Max Moon with the slingshot. Out over the top to the floor goes Michaels. Oh, look at that. I don't know what you would call that. It's like a running whoopee cushion off the apron. Takes down Michaels on the floor. He puts him back in the ring. Michaels begging off like a good heel. I understand why they wouldn't want to run this building for the anniversary show, because it is a small building, and they have over the years said that the Manhattan Center is a terrible venue to run television. I guess it's just a nightmare to set everything up, and I understand that. But when they announced that Raw, the 30th anniversary show, they were bringing it to Philly, to just a normal building, I was disappointed. I was kind of hoping that they would go back to the Manhattan Center, go to the Hammerstein. Hammerstein's bigger, a little bit bigger than the ballroom upstairs. You could still get 2,500, maybe 3,000 people in there. I love the intimate atmosphere of it. Yeah, you just jack up ticket prices if you're worried about losing money on it. That's all. Oh, there's Mike. Okay, there it is. The teardrop suplex. That used to be his finish. A terrible finish. Michaels used to use that until he adopted the super kick. I always hated that finish. Basically a back suplex. Ashley, yeah, I read the Meltzer tweet on the air before. I was looking for a cause, and so far Meltzer's the only one who I saw mention that. But other people have said that I guess there's some sort of news story about there being a car accident, but I haven't seen the story yet. So, all right, well, they're at a commercial for the Rumble. Let me check real quick here. Just see if there's anything additional. All right, well, still to come. That's our main event. Damian Demento against The Undertaker. So that's coming up. All right, so Gene Okerlund is coming on now for a Royal Rumble report, which honestly is something else that I miss. I wish that we would get more of these. We're all criminals. Just became a channel member. I don't know if I agree with that, but we are all criminals. Welcome to the channel. So we're getting the rundown here for all the matches coming up at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Again, this is something I miss. I miss these kind of event center updates, where instead of just throwing it to the announcers down at ringside, we had somebody kind of off-site doing these updates for us. While Michaels is cutting a promo here on Marty Jannetty, let me just read you a few updated details that I'm getting now about the Jay Briscoe stuff. So this is off of the Observer website. Ring of Honor wrestler Jay Briscoe and another passenger died Tuesday evening after a fatal car crash in Laurel, Delaware. While details are still limited, Delaware State Police did report that the crash occurred in the area of Laurel Road and Little Hill Road around 5:30 p.m. The other passenger has yet to be identified other than it was an adult. According to the Shore News Beacon, the car had two other passengers that were critical, with one being referenced as pediatric. And that just makes it even worse, because what that sounds to me is that it may have been him and his wife and his kids. And again, we don't know who the other passengers in the car were. I'm just, based on those details, that's how that reads to me. That's how that reads to me. So, if his kids were involved in that accident, I just hope that I hope they're okay. I hope they pull through. Mark, thank you for becoming a channel member. Mark Peterson just joined us as a Sound Off Superstar. Thank you, Mark. So they are running down the participants in the Rumble match right now. So we got Mr. Perfect here cutting a promo. This was a couple months after he turned babyface. And this was only a couple of weeks, actually, before he had his Loser Leaves Town match with Ric Flair on Raw. That sent Flair out of the company. Derek says, is this the same year that Michaels lost his smile? No, that was 1996. I'm sorry, 1997. That was 1997. Anderson Blitz says, I'm excited to be live at Raw 30 with my family. Well, Anderson, have fun. You're going to get to see a lot of big names on that show. Well, now that I hear Mr. Fuji calling him my Yokozuna, I guess maybe Rob Bartlett isn't wrong after all. Maybe Bartlett heard Mr. Fuji and he thought his name was Yokozuna. Because that's how Mr. Fuji is saying it. I really thought, and I wasn't, look, I was young, but I wasn't that young. And for a while there, they had me convinced that he was Japanese. I thought Yokozuna was Japanese. Carlos Colon, I forgot. That's right. Carlos Colon was in the Royal Rumble in 93. And Tenryu. My God, what the hell? I forgot about that. Tenryu and Carlos Colon were both in the Rumble. Both head shrinkers, Samu and Fatu, who are confirmed, by the way, for Raw 30 this Monday. Both of them will be there for the acknowledgement ceremony with Roman Reigns. Alberto Ortiz just joined our family of channel members. Welcome, Alberto. So here it is, Gina's announcing that the winner of the Royal Rumble is going to meet the WWF champion at WrestleMania. This was the very first time they added that stipulation. So this was new. Because up to this point, the Rumble was not for a shot at the champion at WrestleMania. The year before was for the title itself. But the previous Rumbles before that, there was nothing on the line. So this was the first year where the winner would go to Mania in the main event and get a championship match. Austin, the year that Mil Mascaras eliminated himself was 97. That was at the Alamo Dome, where they're going to be this year. So we're back outside in front of the Manhattan Center with Sean Mooney. Here's Bobby Heenan trying to get in again, dressed as a rabbi. Look at this. He's dressed as a Jew. What a yenta this guy is. Uncle Morty. He said he's Uncle Morty. He has to get inside. He's Rob Bartlett's uncle. Very important that he gets into the building. Oh, he's been exposed. There's only one Bobby Heenan. There's only one Bobby Heenan. Yeah, All American Wrestling was another one of their shows. That was co-hosted by Gene Okerlund and Bobby Heenan. So that aired on USA on Sunday afternoons. Rabbi Shmuley. You get Heyman and Heenan in a room together. Those two would have been gold. Uncle Morty is better than Uncle Howdy, says John Garcia. You're damn right about that. All right, so we're back to ringside here. We have Rob Bartlett, Vince McMahon, and the Macho Man. And is that Mark Yeaton? Yeah, I think to the left of Savage is Mark Yeaton. Or Mark Eaton, the timekeeper. Another longtime WWF employee who, after I think just shy of 30 years, got fired by the company. We just heard about a longtime employee who left the company today. I believe he may have also been let go, which was Adam, their VP of Communications. Okay, so this here is an angle from Superstars where Kim Chi is abusing poor Kamala. He is bullying Kamala. This was the beginning of the Kamala babyface turn. Here comes Slick. Oh, yeah, that's right. The Reverend Slick. Trying to humanize Kamala. This was a thing that they tried in '93. I remember there was a segment they filmed for one of the Coliseum videos where Slick took Kamala bowling. And Kim Chi just put down Slick with a punch. And Kamala is showing sympathy for Slick. He's still getting pushed around here by Kim Chi. Uh-oh. Here's the turn. He had been a heel for so many years. And there's the chop. Out over the top rope goes Kim Chi. Now Kamala going after Harvey Whippleman. He better get out of there. Downtown Bruno running for his life. Kamala chasing after him. So here we go. This is the main event. We're already up to the main event. This is Damian Demento that you see in the ring here. He's going to be taking on The Undertaker. Damian Demento from the outer reaches of your mind. I don't know if that's next to Parts Unknown. So here comes The Undertaker. Did you know? I'm going to give you a little did you know fact here. Did you know that Damian Demento had a small role in the movie Die Hard with a Vengeance? Which, until recently, I did not know this. Which was shocking to me because Die Hard with a Vengeance, which was the third Die Hard movie, the one in New York, is one of my favorite movies. And he was one of the henchmen for Simon Gruber in the movie. He tried to kill Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson's characters at Yankee Stadium when they're being sent by basically a terrorist on a wild goose chase. And when they get sent to Yankee Stadium, he tries to kill them. He ends up being killed himself. And he wasn't the only wrestler from WWF in 1993 who was in that movie. The movie came out in 95. So I think he had already been retired at that point. But Ludwig Borga had a role in that movie as well. And Ludwig Borga made his debut in this company in 93. And he also was one of the bad guys in that movie. So just a little fun fact there for you. I knew Borga was in the movie because you could tell. I mean, the first time I saw the movie, I recognized him instantly. But until recently, I did not know that Damian Demento was in that movie. So actually, I was wrong when I mentioned the number of Hall of Famers on the show. I said there were 9. There are actually 10 if you count Paul Bearer. I did not count Paul Bearer in that. So Undertaker doing the old school rope walk, coming down on Demento. I'm trying to remember. I think this match went off the air before it was over, and we were promised the following week we'll bring you the conclusion of this match, and they never did. They always used to say that, but they never actually did. So I think when this aired live on USA, I believe it got cut off. It should be in full here, but I'm almost positive it got cut off on the live broadcast because they went overtime. Down goes Undertaker with a shoulder tackle, but he does the Michael Myers zombie sit-up. Little mistimed spot there, but he takes down Demento with the flying, I guess, tackle, you would call it, I guess. Here comes the signal for the tombstone. He's not getting paid by the hour. There it is. And look in the background, someone else who passed away just a few months ago, Blackjack Brown. Man, there's Vladimir in the front row. Yeah, Blackjack Brown, he just passed away a few months ago as well. He had been sick for a while and just died recently. So it's a win for The Undertaker in the very first Raw main event. What is this? Next week's steel cage match, Woody Allen against Mia Farrow? The hell was that? Oh, we're not done yet. We got Doink. All right, Doink is at ringside with Vince McMahon. He's got his arm in a makeshift sling. Ah, yes, Crush. Crush roughed him up recently. Says Crush warned him about making children cry. Doink says as long as he laughs, that's all that matters. See, I agree with Doink. Here comes Crush. Here comes Crush. Now, again, he must have just stayed out there for the dark match because he had the, I think it was with Bam Bam, I said, right? The dark match when the show was over. So Crush is warning him. This was a warning, he says. Now, if you remember what this led to an angle on the syndicated show. I think it was Superstars, where Doink tried to make amends. He had his arm in a sling, clearly a fake arm in a sling, and ended up pulling out the cast and beating Crush over the head with it, which is actually a pretty heavy angle. But the best part of that, the absolute best part of that angle, was Vince McMahon insisting that Doink had pulled his arm out of his socket to beat Crush over the head with it. And he said this multiple times. And then I think it might have been Savage on commentary who said it's a cast. He hit him with a cast. And Vince said something to the effect of, well, I guess I'll take your word for it, or something like that. As if he had actually pulled his arm out of the socket and used it to beat him over the head. So now we're back one more time. Bobby Heenan finally got in the building. Mooney is telling him, go ahead, you can still make it, but unfortunately, he doesn't know the show is over. And so ends the very first episode. Let me pause this here. The very first episode of Monday Night Raw. That is the end of that. From January 11th, 1993. Yeah, Vince is insane. I've been telling you Vince is insane for how long now? So, again, it's a simple watch. Not a lot of exciting stuff, but obviously very historical because it was the first episode of a series that would go on to last 30 years, and who would have expected that, right? I mean, the show that it replaced, Primetime Wrestling, had been on not even 10. I don't think at the time anybody would have expected that 30 years later the show would still be on USA Network, with a little break in between when they left to go to TNN. But the aftermath of this, the ratings for this episode were pretty good. Got a 2.5 Nielsen rating. Raw, they had a really rough year in 1995. I mentioned business in 92 and 93 was not great. It only got worse. 95 I look at as kind of like the bottoming out year. They had a lot of talent on the roster. They had there were some good matches. You had people on the roster who were going out there and working hard, like Brett and Owen and 123 Kid, and Hakushi was on the roster at the time. And so, they had a lot of good workers. Jeff Jarrett was on the roster, but, it was all the silly gimmicks. And yeah, I mean, there was a period of time early in 95 where I almost just stopped, and I had a lot of friends who did. It was so boring. I almost gave up, but I stuck with it. And then we all know what happened from there. We ended up with the Attitude Era. We ended up with the Monday Night War. Raw became an institution. It was must-see television every Monday night. They expanded to 2 hours live. Not live every week. Usually they would be live and then tape, and then live and then tape. But Raw obviously exploded to where it is now, where it's 3 hours every Monday night, which is absolutely awful. And but they're getting paid big bucks. So, what can you do? Ric Flair did not appear on this very first episode of Raw. He was at the tail end of his run. He was just about out the door with WWE. He did appear on the second and third episodes. The following week after this, he wrestled Tito Santana, El Matador. And then it was the week after that, he had the Loser Leaves Town match with Mr. Perfect, which was an excellent match. And that was the match where he lost and he was gone. I think he finished up. He may have done some live events after that. Finished up some commitments, but on television, as far as Raw and any pay-per-views and stuff, that was it. We had the Rumble, we had the Loser Leave Town match, and that was the end of Ric Flair's first run in the WWF. 30 years later, coming up this Monday in Philly, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker are the only two men who wrestled on that very first episode who are going to be a part of the 30th anniversary celebration next week. And Kurt Angle has been announced. Flair will be there. Jerry Lawler, Teddy Long, the Bella Twins. I know you're all looking forward to the Bella Twins. So they're going to be bringing out a whole bunch of legends. Sean Waltman, Road Dogg, and who knows? Will we see The Rock? Will we see Stone Cold? Is that the night that Edge makes his return? Because Edge should be on his way back, either at the Rumble or maybe that Monday before. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But that is your 1993 Royal Rumble watch along. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as you could. Obviously, for those who joined late, literally we were 10 minutes into this watch along when the news broke. Tony Khan posted a tweet a little before 8:30, about an hour ago, announcing that Jay Briscoe has passed away. And it sounds as if it was in a car accident. That is the latest on that situation. According to the Wrestling Observer website, the only information that we appear to have right now indicates the following. Delaware State Police did report that the car crash occurred in the area of Laurel Road and Little Hill Road at around 5:30 Eastern this evening. The other passenger in the car has yet to be identified, other than it was an adult who also passed away. We don't know who. And according to a report on the Shore News Beacon, the car had two other passengers that were critical, with one being referenced as pediatric. The words entrapment and fire were also used in the report. And it says that Jay Briscoe was set to turn 39 years old later this month. Somebody in the chat mentioned that his birthday would have been, I believe, January 25th, which is next Wednesday. So that is the update. Shocking, sad, kind kind of numb to the news. Obviously, it was very unexpected, very tragic. And all you can do is just hope for the best. As far as the other passengers in the car, I mean, again, I read that report. It sounds to me like it may have been his whole family that was in the car, and I don't know if that's the case, and I don't know what the circumstances are behind the accident. But I just hope that whoever else was in the car, who has not already passed away, will make it out okay. Biblical Adrian with the $5 super chat just heard the tragic news about Jay Briscoe. Definitely one of ROH's best and should have made it on the big stage. May he rest in peace. And Uffman Entertainment, this was probably the fastest Undertaker entrance ever. Well, I mean, it's the shortest aisleway ever at the Manhattan Center. You don't have to walk very far to go from the back to the ring. I guess that would be another reason why maybe they didn't want to do the show there next Monday. They wouldn't be able to have their pyro and their big LED screens, and we know how much they love that stuff. So, but Uffman, thank you for the $5. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, not the way that I was hoping for this night to go. I am sure I will have a lot more to say once I gather my thoughts on this and we get more information about what happened. I'm sure the tributes are already pouring in. Very, very sad nights. Very sad to hear that news about Jay Briscoe. I will be live tomorrow night again with you for the AEW Dynamite stream, where I am sure this will be mentioned, and there will be a lot of people tomorrow night paying tribute to someone who they were very good friends with. The Briscoes have a lot of friends who work in that company, who have worked with them before and against them. And there's going to be a lot of people hurting tonight, but it's just one of those things where you hear about something like this. And as I said, Jay Briscoe would have turned 39 next week. I'm a little bit older, just slightly older than he is, almost the same age. And it's just a very scary thing to think about. Here 1 minute, gone the next. Just learn to appreciate what you have, because tomorrow is certainly not guaranteed. And I will have more about this on Sound Off 792 this Sunday. So that aside, I hope you guys enjoyed the watch along. We'll do another one of these real soon. I don't know when, but we'll definitely be doing more of these. So be well, stay safe. That I stress that more than anything. Stay safe, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow night for the AEW Dynamite stream. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe.